fighting fans, tips from the Fight IQ channel. Happy to be back with you all after 1 week of inactivity. I'm excited to kick off this fourth episode of our weekly series, The Fight IQ Show. For those who are just joining on this channel, I will start by ranking the top 5 fights that happened last weekend, and I will tell you all why you should watch it as well. There were not a lot of events this weekend, but the quality level was high. I had to watch some fights 2 or 3 times to make the most accurate top 5 possible. There was UFC 292, there was the PFL, the KSW 85, the boxing match between Yafai and Frank. I couldn't watch either One Friday Fights or LFA as I wanted to provide you guys with a video quite quickly. To make this ranking, I was respecting the following criteria: the excitement, the duration of the fight, the position level, and the way to finish the fight. After that, I'll be previewing the top 5 fights that will happen next weekend. So let's get to it. Number 5, Austin Herbert versus Kurt Holobaugh. It was during the UFC 292 for the Ultimate Fighter lightweight final. Nice story for Holobaugh, coming back to the UFC 3 years after his last fight, being 36 years old, so quite a comeback story for him. He suffered a bit in the first round, Herbert having the speed advantage over him, being more successful in his striking, also securing 2 takedowns. In the second round, Holobaugh turned things quickly for him, hitting Herbert with a quick right hand a few times, winning most of the striking exchanges. After that, he put the fight on the ground, where he got the dominant position, was trying to get an armbar, and as soon as he did, Holobaugh got him with a triangle and finished the fight beautifully. Number 4, Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson, also in the UFC 292 for the Ultimate Fighter bantamweight final. So it was a great striking showcase, a lot of back and forth action. Gibson was constantly bringing pressure and Katona was fighting, moving backwards and trying to counter. The pace stayed high all along the fight, even with the 2 fighters growing more tired. The key to this fight was Katona's movement. From the beginning to the end of the fight, he was constantly hitting Gibson and moving, forcing Gibson to follow him, to miss. So Katona got the win via unanimous decision and became the Ultimate Fighter winner for the bantamweight division. Number 3, Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. It was the main event of the UFC 292 for the bantamweight championship. So it was a long-awaited bout between Aljamain Sterling, the champ, and the striker/entertainer Sean O'Malley. During the first round, you could see that both men were trying to measure their opponents, trying to find their rhythm and flow. A lot of feints from Sugar Sean was looking for big shot, I suppose, while Sterling was trying to approach him and kicking his legs. At the end of the first round, Sterling found a way to approach Sean O'Malley and engage it to a clinch, but he couldn't capitalize on it before the bell rings. The second round started on the same basis, but while Aljamain Sterling went towards Sean O'Malley, this one stepped aside and caught him with a beautiful hook to the chin, putting the champ right on his ass on the ground. He then went to finish the fight on the ground with nice ground and pound and got the win via TKO, becoming the new bantamweight champ. You can argue that the stoppage was a bit early, especially as the champ was involved in that stoppage, but beautiful performance from Sean O'Malley nonetheless. You can rewatch this fight on the UFC Fight Pass. Number 2, Neil Magny versus Ian Gary. Also in the UFC 292, this fight was amazing. I almost put it on the top of the rankings for these weeks. It was an almost flawless performance from Ian Gary against a tough and well-rounded opponent. He made it look easy, sticking to his game plan, which was staying on his feet at a good distance from Magny and literally destroying his left leg. You could see that after a few kicks to the leg, Magny was in difficulty and could almost not rely on his leg, making it impossible for him to launch any attacks. Ian Gary was also mixing things up, feinting a low kick to place a high kick or even direct from the right hand. The only thing he could hold against Gary was maybe that he couldn't finish the fight. So yeah, great performance. Number 2 for me, guys. You can rewatch this fight on the UFC Fight Pass. And number 1, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos, co-main event of the UFC 292 for the strawweight championship. What a dominating performance it was from Zhang Weili, showcasing all of her skills and how complete she became. In the first round, she took the fight to the ground, smashing Lemos with a lot of hard strikes, including elbows to the face, escaping also quite easily a tentative of submission from Lemos. She stuck to that plan through the fight as it worked perfectly for her. Hats off to Lemos, who never gave up and was successful to defend herself to stay in the fight. On the striking phases, she showed that she could hit Zhang Weili quite hard as well and could be dangerous for her if the fight stayed on the feet. High level fight overall, complete showcase of what MMA is and one of the best performances I saw this year. Also guys, Gregory Rodriguez got a brutal But controversial finish at the UFC 292. He hit his opponent on the ground with an elbow back to the head, which was unnoticed by the referee and led to his victory by TKO. Also, Saladin Parnas defending his belt at KSW 85 was a great performance. A top featherweight. Also, he's a double champ at KSW featherweight and lightweight. I really would like to see that guy in the UFC someday because I'm sure he could smash a lot of featherweight there. Larissa Pacheco moving to the PFL finals after a great victory in 14 seconds. I'm sure she will win the PFL titles this year again, and I can't wait to see her doing that. Nice victory for Golotsov at PFL. He will face Renan Ferreira in the heavyweight final in a really interesting matchup. Moving on to what to watch next weekend. Number 5, I would say Giga Chikadze against Alex Caceres. It will be in the UFC Fight Night in Singapore. Two really good strikers fighting each other. Chikadze wants to regain his momentum after losing in his last fight against Calvin Kattar, while Caceres wants to keep his winning streak going. It will be a spectacular fight, and I see Chikadze winning by KO in this one. You can watch it on UFC Fight Pass or ESPN. Number 4, Clay Collard against Shane Burgos. It's a PFL lightweight semifinal. It will be a hard fight for sure. Both fighters are known to keep the pace going during the fight. Both are to finish. I'll not be surprised if the winner from this fight will be then the one winning the competition. I would expect Burgos to win by decision, but this one is so close, guys. So keep an eye out for it. You can watch it on DAZN or ESPN. Number 3, Erin Blanchfield against Tayla Santos. It will be in the UFC Fight Night Singapore also. Typical matchup between the grappler and the striker. Grappler being Blanchfield and striker Tayla Santos. Blanchfield is undefeated in the UFC, getting 5 wins in 5 bouts, the last 3 by the way of submission, and she's a top prospect in the women's flyweight division. Santos only lost 2 times in her 6th appearance in the UFC, losing her first by split decision and her last in a 5-round war against Valentina Shevchenko, who was the champ at the time, also a split decision. It will be interesting to see how she bounces back from that loss and if she can stop the hype from Blanchfield. I would give a slight edge to Blanchfield on this one. If she can get the fight to the ground, I think she will get it done. You can watch this fight on the UFC Fight Pass or ESPN. Number 2, Alexander Usyk versus Daniel Dubois. It's a fight for the WBO, IBF and WBA heavyweight title. I think it will be an entertaining fight because every time Usyk stepped in the ring, it's entertaining. I would have preferred to see him against Tyson Fury, but yeah, as you maybe know, it was hard for them to agree on that fight and it couldn't be done, so here we are. Nonetheless, it will be interesting as he will face Daniel Dubois, a young and huge heavyweight, 19 wins in 20 fights, 18 wins by the way of knockout. Can't wait to see how Usyk will behave against the reach and the KO power from Dubois, even if we saw what he did against Joshua already. For Dubois, I'm interested to see what will happen if the fight goes after the 5th round, which is a known territory for him. I think Usyk will win via decision, but it will not be easy, so keep an eye for this one, guys. And number 1, the most exciting fight for me this weekend will be Max Holloway versus Korean Zombie. That's the main event of the fight night of the UFC Fight Night in Singapore. 2 really high-level strikers who fought everybody in the featherweight division except each other. It will be a war with a high pace and a high volume of striking. Both are so tough, they never give up and take so much damage, even too much for their own good. I expect Max Holloway to get this one, guys. I think this guy is really different, one of the best strikers we ever saw in the UFC. And even if Korean Zombie is really good in striking, I think he's too slow for Holloway. I think Holloway will get this done or by a TKO or via unanimous decision. Holloway for me, guys, but exciting fight nonetheless. Keep an eye for this one. You can watch it on ESPN or UFC Fight Pass. Also, keep an eye out on the Dana White Contender Series, the week 3. It will be out before I release this video, but yeah, I hope that you guys will watch it, and I will certainly do something on TikTok about it, so you can also follow me there. There's also the Road to UFC Singapore this weekend, which is a tournament made by the UFC for Asian fighters to join the big scene on the UFC. So keep an eye for this one, guys. And then the BKFC 49. BKFC is coming back. BKFC is a bare knuckle boxing promotion, so it's boxing without gloves. It's sometimes brutal and maybe seen by some as heresy in this sport. But you have also some good boxers, and I will keep an eye out for a few games there. We're done for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave me in comment which fight are you expecting, which fight will you watch in priority. I will read them and respond to them. Also punch that subscribe button to be there every time I release a new video. You can also follow me on social media. I have a TikTok, Twitter and Instagram. To you all a nice weekend of fighting. Just take care. I see you next week.